In basketball, the argument is simple. Michael Jordan or LeBron James, 6 rings and perfection in the finals, or 4 titles and the all-time scoring record. Pick a side, defend it to the death. In football, it is Tom Brady. 7 Super Bowl championships, 5 Super Bowl MVP awards, 3 league MVP awards, the most touchdown passes in NFL history. The argument is essentially over. In hockey, Wayne Gretzky holds 61 records. He has more assists than any other player has total points. He won 4 Stanley Cups and 9 MVP awards. He scored more goals than anyone in history. But in baseball, ask who the greatest player of all time is, and you will get a dozen different answers. Babe Ruth, Willie Mays, Hank Aaron, Barry Bonds, Ted Williams, Ty Cobb, Mickey Mantle, Stan Musial, Honus Wagner, Walter Johnson, Pedro Martinez, Randy Johnson, Greg Maddux, Mike Trout, Shohei Ohtani, and somehow, impossibly, frustratingly, all of them have legitimate claims to the throne. Baseball is America's pastime. It has been played professionally for more than 150 years. It has more statistics, more records, and more documented history than any other sport on Earth. It invented sabermetrics, and it pioneered analytics. It tracks everything from exit velocity to spin rate to launch angle to expected batting average. It is the most measured sport in human history, and yet it cannot answer the simplest question in sports. Who is the greatest of all time? This is the story of why baseball's GOAT debate is fundamentally broken, why the sport that invented advanced statistics cannot use them to settle its most basic argument, and why 150 years of baseball history has failed to produce a consensus champion, and why that might be exactly what makes baseball beautiful. Let's start with the most obvious problem, the one that makes baseball unique among all major professional sports. In basketball, every player scores, rebounds, passes, and defends. The game requires all 5 players on the court to participate in all aspects of play. Michael Jordan was a scorer and a defender. LeBron James is a scorer and a playmaker and a defender. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was a scorer and a rebounder and a shot blocker. They all did the same job, and they can be compared directly, using the same statistics, measuring the same skills. In football, players specialize, but the quarterback touches the ball on every offensive play. He is the engine that drives everything. Tom Brady and Joe Montana and Peyton Manning and John Elway all did the same thing. They threw passes, read defenses, led their teams, and won championships. The comparison is direct and immediate. In hockey, every skater can score and assist and check and defend. Wayne Gretzky and Mario Lemieux and Sidney Crosby and Connor McDavid all play the same position. They skate on the same ice, shoot at the same nets, and compete in the same way. They can be measured against each other without philosophical complications. But in baseball, there are 2 entirely different games happening at once. Pitchers throw, position players hit. And for most of baseball history, never the twain did meet. For more than a century, these 2 groups of players were so distinct that they might as well have been playing different sports. Pitchers trained to throw fastballs and curveballs and sliders. Hitters trained to recognize those pitches and drive them into gaps. The skills did not overlap. The metrics did not connect. The comparisons were impossible. How do you compare Cy Young to Babe Ruth? Young won 511 games, a record so untouchable that no active pitcher has even half that total. The closest active pitcher as of 2025 has around 200 wins. Young threw more than 7,500 innings over 22 seasons. He completed 749 of his 815 career starts, meaning he almost never left a game before it was finished. He won 30 or more games 5 times. He pitched in an era when starting pitchers were expected to complete what they started, when bullpens were afterthoughts, when durability was the most prized quality a pitcher could possess. His numbers look like typos. They will never be approached. They exist in a different universe from modern pitching statistics. Ruth hit 714 home runs. He slugged .690 for his career, still the highest mark in baseball history by a significant margin. He had a career OPS of 1.164, nearly 200 points higher than any other qualified hitter in history. He led the American League in home runs 12 times. He hit 60 home runs in 1927, when no other player in baseball had ever hit more than 49. He transformed the sport from a game of bunts and stolen bases and small ball into a game of power and excitement and home runs. He did not just play baseball differently. He reinvented the entire sport. He saved baseball after the Black Sox scandal of 1919. He became the most famous athlete in America, arguably the most famous person in America. Who was greater? The man who dominated from the mound for 22 seasons, or the man who changed how the game was played from the batter's box? The question has no answer. The comparison is meaningless. It is like asking whether Picasso was better than Beethoven, whether Shakespeare was greater than Einstein, whether the Grand Canyon is more beautiful than the Pacific Ocean. They operated in different dimensions of the same sport. And here is what makes this even more complicated. Babe Ruth was actually an elite pitcher himself before he became a full-time outfielder. He won 94 games with a 2.28 ERA for the Boston Red Sox from 1914 through 1919. He led the American League in earned run average in 1916. He threw 29 2/3 consecutive scoreless innings in World Series play, a record that stood for 43 years. He might have been a Hall of Fame pitcher if he had never picked up a bat. This makes the comparison even more impossible. Ruth is the only player in baseball history who might legitimately claim to be among the greatest hitters and among the greatest pitchers who ever lived. How do you weigh that against specialists who only did one thing? Walter Johnson won 417 games and struck out 3,509 batters, using a fastball so dominant they called him the Big Train. He threw 110 shutouts, 20 more than any other pitcher in history. His career ERA of 2.17 is among the lowest ever recorded by a starting pitcher. He won the pitching Triple Crown twice. He was so good that opposing teams would sometimes forfeit rather than face him. But Johnson never hit. He never ran the bases with any skill. He never played defense at a position other than pitcher. How do you compare him to a five-tool outfielder like Willie Mays, who did everything at an elite level? How do you measure Johnson's dominance on the mound against Mays' excellence in every aspect of the game? Sandy Koufax had the greatest peak of any pitcher in modern baseball history. From 1963 through 1966, he went 97 wins and 27 losses with a 1.86 ERA. He won 3 Cy Young Awards in 4 years, at a time when they only gave 1 award for both leagues combined. He threw 4 no-hitters, including a perfect game in 1965. He struck out 382 batters in 1965, a record that stood for nearly a decade. And then he retired at 30 years old because his elbow was destroyed, because the pain was unbearable, because he chose his health over his legacy. Is Koufax's 4-year peak more valuable than Nolan Ryan's 27-year career of 5,714 strikeouts? Is dominance more important than longevity? Is a short career of brilliance worth more than a long career of excellence? The question has no objective answer. It depends on what you value. It depends on how you define greatness. This is the fundamental problem that baseball cannot solve. The sport has 2 entirely different jobs and no way to compare them. In basketball, you can argue about Michael Jordan's 6 championships versus LeBron James's 4. The numbers are clean. The comparison is direct. Both players did the same things on the court. Both carried their teams. Both dominated the finals when they won. The ring count matters because basketball is a sport where one transcendent player can take over a game, can will his team to victory, can be the difference between winning and losing on any given night. Jordan went 6 for 6 in the finals. He never lost when it mattered most. He won Finals MVP every time he appeared on that stage. LeBron went 4 for 10. He lost more than he won. He had bad games in big moments. This is the foundation of the Jordan argument. It's simple, it's memorable, it fits on a bumper sticker. 6 rings beats 4 rings. Discussion over. But in baseball, championships mean almost nothing in the GOAT debate. And this is not just an opinion. It's a structural fact about how the sport actually works. Baseball is played over 162 games across 6 grueling months. The regular season is a marathon of attrition, and then the playoffs are a short tournament where anything can happen. A hot pitcher can carry a mediocre team to the World Series. A cold streak can eliminate a dynasty. The sample size is too small for talent to consistently prevail. The best team wins the World Series maybe 60% of the time, if that. In basketball, the best team wins the championship almost always. More importantly, one baseball player simply cannot carry a team the way one basketball player can. In basketball, LeBron or Jordan can play 40 minutes a game and touch the ball on every single possession. They can score 40 points. They can guard the best opposing player. They can control the game from start to finish. In baseball, the best hitter in the world comes to the plate 4 or 5 times a game. That's 4 or 5 chances to contribute in a game that might feature 80 or 90 plate appearances total. The best hitter might get 1 or 2 meaningful at-bats with runners in scoring position. He might go 0 for 4 and his team wins anyway because the 7th place hitter had a good day. He might go 4 for 4 with 2 home runs and his team loses because the pitching staff gave up 8 runs. Willie Mays won 1 World Series ring. Just 1. In 1954, his New York Giants swept the Cleveland Indians in 4 games, and Mays made the most famous catch in baseball history in Game 1. But that was it. He played 23 seasons for the New York and San Francisco Giants, made 24 All-Star teams, hit 660 home runs, won 12 Gold Gloves, captured 2 MVP awards, stole 338 bases, made catches that seemed to defy physics, and ran the bases with a joy that made grown men remember why they loved the game. Many experts consider Mays the greatest all-around player in baseball history, the best 5-tool player who ever lived, the most complete baseball player ever to wear a uniform, the player who could beat you in more ways than anyone else. Ted Williams won 0 World Series championships. None. 0. He played 19 seasons for the Boston Red Sox, missing nearly 5 full years to military service in World War II and Korea. He hit .006 in 1941, the last player to bat over 400 in a single season. No one has done it since. His career on-base percentage of 0.482 remains the highest in baseball history. His career slugging percentage of 0.634 stood as the record for decades. He won 6 batting titles and 2 Triple Crowns. He is called the greatest pure hitter who ever lived. His book, The Science of Hitting, is still considered the definitive work on the subject. Barry Bonds won 0 World Series championships. He played 22 seasons for the Pittsburgh Pirates and San Francisco Giants. He hit 762 home runs, more than anyone in history. He won 7 MVP awards, more than anyone in history. He walked 2,558 times, more than anyone in history. He had a single season on base percentage of 0.609 in 2004, a number so absurd it seems like a misprint. In that same season, he was intentionally walked 120 times. Pitchers simply refused to throw him strikes. They preferred to give him first base for free rather than risk letting him swing the bat. Now consider Derek Jeter. 5 World Series championships, all 5 won with the New York Yankees dynasty of the late 1990s and early 2000s. He was the face of the franchise. He was the captain. He made clutch plays in October that will live forever in baseball lore. He is in the Hall of Fame. He received all but 1 vote on his ballot. He is a legend. But almost no serious analyst would rank Derek Jeter among the 10 greatest players in baseball history. His WAR, his offensive numbers, his defensive metrics all fall short of the true elite. He was a compiler, not a dominator. He was very good for a very long time, but he was never the best player in baseball in any given year. In basketball, rings are the argument. Michael Jordan's 6-for-6 finals record is the trump card his supporters play against LeBron. In football, Tom Brady's 7 rings end most debates before they start. In baseball, rings are almost irrelevant to the GOAT discussion. The sport's greatest players routinely fail to win championships because baseball is the ultimate team game. One player, no matter how transcendent, cannot carry a team the way Jordan carried the Bulls, the way Brady carried the Patriots, the way Gretzky carried the Oilers. Put Willie Mays on the 1955 Yankees instead of the Giants. He probably wins multiple championships. He's not a better player. He's just in a different uniform. This is why baseball fans don't argue about championships when discussing the greatest ever. They know better. They understand the sport. So if championships don't matter, what does? Statistics. Baseball is the sport of statistics. It invented advanced analytics decades before other sports caught on. Bill James was publishing baseball abstracts in the 1980s, introducing concepts like runs created and win shares that attempted to measure player value more accurately than traditional statistics. The Moneyball revolution of the early 2000s brought sabermetrics into the mainstream. Today, baseball tracks everything: exit velocity, launch angle, spin rate, expected batting average, wins above replacement, OPS plus, ERA plus, fielding runs above average. There are metrics for everything. And none of them can settle the GOAT debate. Babe Ruth has the highest career wins above replacement among position players at 182.6 according to Baseball Reference. That should end the argument. It does not, because Ruth played in a segregated league. From 1887 until 1947, black players were banned from Major League Baseball. For 60 years, the best athletes in America were excluded from competition based solely on the color of their skin. This is not ancient history. Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier only 78 years ago. There are people still alive who remember watching it happen. Babe Ruth never faced Satchel Paige, who many considered the greatest pitcher of his era, black or white. He never hit against Smokey Joe Williams, who struck out 27 batters in a 12-inning game against major leaguers in an exhibition. He never competed with Josh Gibson, the man they called the Black Babe Ruth, who some historians believe was actually superior to Ruth himself. In 2024, Major League Baseball officially incorporated Negro League statistics into its historical records. Suddenly, Josh Gibson's career batting average of .372 became the highest in baseball history, surpassing Ty Cobb's .366. Gibson's career slugging percentage of .718 became the highest ever recorded, surpassing Ruth himself. Gibson never played in the major leagues. He was denied the opportunity because of racism. He died in 1947, just 3 months before Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier. He never got his chance, but his numbers now count. His legacy is finally official. So was Babe Ruth the greatest, or was he simply the greatest among those who were allowed to play? Willie Mays played in an integrated league. He competed against the best players of all races from all countries. His numbers were compiled against superior competition. Does that make his statistics more valuable than Ruth's? Does facing better pitchers make his 660 home runs more impressive than Ruth's 714? There is no consensus answer. There probably never will be. And then there is the steroid era. Barry Bonds hit 73 home runs in 2001, shattering Mark McGwire's record of 70 set just 3 years earlier. From 2001 through 2004, Bonds won 4 consecutive MVP awards. His numbers during that stretch were so preposterous that they barely seem real. In 2004, he batted .362 with 45 home runs, 232 walks, and an on-base percentage of .609. Pitchers walked him intentionally 120 times, rather than give him a chance to swing. He reached base in 61% of his plate appearances, the highest rate in modern baseball history by a significant margin. but Bonds has been connected to performance-enhancing drugs throughout that period. The Balco investigation, the leaked grand jury testimony, the physical transformation from a lean speedster in Pittsburgh to a hulking masher in San Francisco. He has never been elected to the Hall of Fame despite having the most home runs and most MVP awards in history. His plaque should be in Cooperstown by every statistical measure. The doors remain closed. So is Bonds the greatest hitter who ever lived, or is he a cheater whose numbers should be discounted, ignored, or erased from the record books entirely? Roger Clemens won 7 Cy Young Awards, the most in baseball history. He won 354 games. He struck out 4,672 batters. He won the pitching Triple Crown twice. By the traditional metrics that defined pitching greatness for a century, Clemens is arguably the greatest pitcher of the modern era. But Clemens has also been connected to performance-enhancing drugs. The Mitchell Report, the congressional testimony, the same cloud that hangs over Bonds hangs over Clemens. He is also not in the Hall of Fame. His legacy is forever tainted. The steroid era did not just taint individual players, it broke baseball's statistical continuity entirely. The numbers from 1995 through 2005 exist in a different context than anything before or after. Home run totals exploded. Pitchers who had been dominant suddenly became hittable. Records that had stood for decades fell in bunches. Comparing Bonds to Ruth requires accounting for segregation. Comparing Bonds to Mays requires accounting for steroids. Comparing anyone across eras requires accounting for dozens of variables. The height of the mound, the size of the ballparks, the quality of equipment, the improvements in training, the changes in strategy, the evolution of pitching staffs. The math does not work. The comparisons collapse under their own weight. Here is another reason baseball can't crown a GOAT. The sport is simply too old and human memory is too short. When Michael Jordan retired in 1998, the basketball world had watched him dominate for 15 years. Every fan over the age of 25 remembered his championships, his game-winning shots, his flu game, his shrug, his tongue wagging as he flew to the rim. The memories were vivid and personal. When LeBron James emerged as a challenger to Jordan's legacy, fans could compare them directly. They had watched both players. They had formed opinions based on what they saw with their own eyes. But who remembers watching Babe Ruth play? Ruth retired in 1935. He died in 1948. There is no one alive who saw him in his prime with clear adult memories. Everything we know about Ruth comes from statistics, from grainy black and white film clips, from newspaper accounts, from stories passed down through generations. We know he was great. We do not truly remember it. Willie Mays retired in 1973. He is in his 90s now. The people who watched him play in his prime are increasingly rare. His catch in the 1954 World Series, arguably the most famous defensive play in baseball history, exists primarily as a brief black and white clip that younger fans have to seek out on YouTube. Hank Aaron retired in 1976. Ted Williams retired in 1960. Joe DiMaggio retired in 1951. Lou Gehrig gave his farewell speech in 1939. The greatest players in baseball history are ghosts to modern fans. Their achievements exist as numbers on a page, not as living memories. Their greatness must be accepted on faith, not experienced firsthand. This makes it impossible to generate the kind of passionate personal debates that define the Jordan versus LeBron argument. Basketball fans argue about those two players because they watch them play. They have opinions based on what they saw with their own eyes. They remember specific games, specific moments, specific feelings. Baseball fans argue about Ruth and Mays and Aaron using statistics and historical accounts. It is an academic exercise, not a visceral one. The passion is different, the stakes feel lower. And this brings us to perhaps the most important reason baseball has no clear GOAT. The sport does not want one. Basketball embraced the GOAT debate because it is good for business. ESPN runs segments on Jordan versus LeBron because they generate clicks and views and arguments. Skip Bayless built an entire career on defending Jordan against LeBron. Stephen A. Smith makes millions discussing the same topic. The NBA benefits from having two transcendent figures whose legacies can be endlessly compared and debated. Baseball has never embraced this kind of argument. The sport's culture is fundamentally different. Baseball venerates history in a way that discourages ranking and comparison. The Hall of Fame in Cooperstown treats all inductees as equals. There is no tiered system, no ranking of greatness among the immortals. Everyone who gets in is a Hall of Famer, full stop. When you walk through the Hall of Fame, Babe Ruth's plaque hangs in the same gallery as players you have never heard of. Willie Mays is just another bronze rectangle on the wall. The message is clear and intentional. Everyone here belongs. Comparing them misses the point. Baseball also lacks the media infrastructure that drives GOAT debates in other sports. Basketball has a hot take culture, where television personalities shout at each other daily about Jordan versus LeBron. The debate generates content. The content generates ratings. The ratings generate more debate. It becomes a perpetual motion machine of argument. Baseball does not have this. The sports media culture is more analytical, more historical, more patient. Baseball writers do not shout at each other about who is the greatest. They write long, thoughtful essays examining different candidates. They acknowledge complexity. They resist definitive answers. This is a feature, not a bug. Baseball's resistance to the GOAT debate reflects the sport's deeper values. History matters. Context matters. There are no simple answers. But something has changed in recent years. A player has emerged who might actually settle the debate, or at least reframe it in ways that make comparison possible. His name is Shohei Ohtani. For more than a century, baseball's fundamental problem was that pitchers and hitters were different species. You could not compare them. You could not rank them against each other. The GOAT debate was permanently fractured because half the sport's greatest players did something completely different from the other half. Ohtani erased that division. In 2021, Ohtani did something that had not been done since Babe Ruth a century earlier. He excelled as both a hitter and a pitcher at the major league level in the same season. He hit 46 home runs and stole 26 bases, numbers that would make him an all-star as a pure designated hitter. He also went 9-2 as a pitcher with a 3.18 earned run average and 156 strikeouts, numbers that would make him an all-star as a pure starting pitcher. He did both in the same season for the same team. The game had become too specialized. Pitching required year-round arm care and sophisticated recovery protocols. Hitting required constant repetition and endless video study. Teams had decided, collectively and definitively, that no modern player could do both at an elite level. Ohtani proved them wrong. In 2023, Ohtani had perhaps the greatest individual season in baseball history. He hit 44 home runs and stole 20 bases while batting .304. He went 10-5 as a pitcher with a 3.14 earned run average and 167 strikeouts. He won the American League Most Valuable Player award unanimously. And then, despite missing the entire 2024 season as a pitcher due to elbow surgery, Ohtani won the National League Most Valuable Player by hitting 54 home runs and stealing 59 bases. He became the first player in baseball history to hit 50 home runs and steal 50 bases in the same season. The 50-50 club had one member, and it was him. The numbers do not make sense. They suggest a player operating on a different plane from everyone else. Ohtani has given baseball something it never had before, a potential GOAT candidate who does everything. He is not just a great hitter competing against other great hitters. He is not just a great pitcher competing against other great pitchers. He is both. He combines the two halves of baseball's impossible comparison into a single human being. If Ohtani continues at this pace for another decade, he might end the debate. But he has not done it yet. His career is still ongoing. His legacy is still being written. So where does this leave us? Basketball has Jordan versus LeBron. Football has Brady. Hockey has Gretzky. Soccer has Messi versus Ronaldo. Baseball has a question mark, a shrug, a list of candidates that grows longer every generation. And maybe that is exactly how it should be. Maybe baseball's inability to crown a GOAT reflects something true about the sport itself. Baseball is not about individuals. It is about teams, about history, about the slow accumulation of moments across a 162-game season. It is a sport where the best hitters fail 7 times out of 10. A sport where the best teams lose 60 games a year. A sport that humbles everyone who plays it, no matter how talented. The GOAT debate assumes that greatness can be ranked, that one player can be definitively better than another, that the question has an answer waiting to be discovered. Baseball rejects this premise. The sport is too complex, too contextual, too dependent on factors beyond any individual's control. Greatness in baseball is not a hierarchy, it is a constellation. Babe Ruth shines brightest for some fans, Willie Mays for others, Hank Aaron for others still, Ted Williams, Barry Bonds, Shohei Ohtani. They are all stars. They are all worthy of awe. Ranking them misses the point. The next time someone asks you who the greatest baseball player of all time is, don't give them a name, give them a story. Tell them about Ruth, the orphan from Baltimore who became a god, who hit 60 home runs when no one else could hit 30, who saved baseball after the Black Sox scandal and made America fall in love with the long ball. Tell them about Mays, the say-hey kid who made the catch in the 1954 World Series, who ran the bases with pure joy, who played center field with an elegance that made grown men remember why they loved the game. Tell them about Aaron, who chased Ruth's home run record through death threats and racial hatred, who received letters threatening his life and the lives of his family, who crossed home plate 755 times with quiet, unshakable dignity. Tell them about Bonds, the most feared hitter who ever lived, who walked more than anyone and homered more than anyone and remains outside the Hall of Fame, his legacy forever complicated. Tell them about Williams, who hit 406 and went to war twice, who gave up nearly 5 years of his prime to fly fighter jets for his country, who never stopped arguing about the science of hitting until the day he died. Tell them about Ohtani, who is doing things no one thought possible, who pitches and hits at levels that should not coexist in the same body, who might be writing a new chapter in the story right now. These are not rankings, these are legacies. They cannot be compared. They can only be celebrated. Baseball has no GOAT because baseball is not that kind of sport. It is older than basketball. It is stranger than football. It is more resistant to simplification than any game ever invented. It asks more of its fans than a hot take and a hashtag, and in a sports culture increasingly dominated by debate shows and social media arguments, maybe that is exactly what we need. A sport that refuses to give easy answers. A history that demands engagement. A question that remains beautifully, frustratingly, perfectly open. Who is the greatest baseball player of all time? The answer is all of them. But also none of them. The answer is watch the games, learn the history, and decide for yourself. That's what baseball has always asked of us. That's what makes it beautiful. Like and subscribe for more baseball content. Until next time.